My best friend's husband always seemed too friendly with another woman, so I followed my gut and did some digging. The next morning, she came over for coffee, and I handed her a folder full of receipts. I never imagined I'd be sharing something like this, but I need to get this off my chest. Maybe writing it down will help me process everything. I've known my best friend, Sarah, since we were kids growing up in the Lincoln Park neighborhood of Chicago. We've been inseparable through every stage of life. About 10 years ago, she married Mike, and I was thrilled for her. Mike seemed like a great guy, charming, attentive, and successful. Over the years, the three of us became close. We'd often have dinners together, celebrate holidays, and even took a few trips as a group. A few months ago, I started noticing some changes in Mike's behavior. At first, they were subtle. He seemed more distracted during our group conversations, often checking his phone or stepping away to take calls. I brushed it off, thinking work was probably demanding. But then, I noticed he was frequently mentioning a colleague named Jessica. He'd bring her up casually, talking about projects they were working on or funny anecdotes from the office. One evening, while we were having dinner at Sarah and Mike's place, Mike received a text. He glanced at his phone and smiled, a smile that seemed different. He quickly put the phone down, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Later that night, as Sarah was in the kitchen, Mike's phone buzzed again. He picked it up, read the message, and chuckled softly. I caught a glimpse of the screen. It was a message from Jessica. Over the next few weeks, I became more observant. I noticed Mike was spending more late nights at the office, often claiming he had tight deadlines. Sarah, trusting as she is, didn't question it. But my intuition told me otherwise. I decided to dig a little deeper. I started by checking Mike's social media profiles. He was relatively private, but Jessica's profile was more open. Scrolling through her posts, I noticed she frequently tagged Mike in photos and status updates. There were pictures of them at work events, lunches, and even a few where they seemed a bit too close for just colleagues. One photo, in particular, stood out. It was taken at a bar in the West Loop, showing Mike and Jessica laughing, her hand resting on his knee. Still, this wasn't concrete evidence. I needed to be sure before bringing anything to Sarah. So, I decided to follow Mike after work. I know it sounds extreme, but I couldn't let my best friend be blindsided. One Thursday evening, Mike mentioned he had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until after midnight. I parked near his office building in the Loop and waited. Around 7:30 p.m., I saw him exit the building, not heading towards the parking garage, but walking down the street. He met up with Jessica at the entrance of a nearby restaurant, The Gauge. They greeted each other with a hug that lingered a bit too long before heading inside. I felt a pit in my stomach but decided to wait. About 2 hours later, they emerged, laughing and leaning into each other. Instead of parting ways, they walked together towards the River North area. I followed at a distance as they entered a boutique hotel, the Godfrey. My heart sank. The next morning, I invited Sarah over for coffee at my place. I had compiled all the evidence, screenshots of social media interactions, photos from Jessica's profile, and the pictures I took the previous night. I placed everything in a folder, my hands trembling. Sarah arrived, cheerful as always. We sat down, and I handed her the folder. She looked confused but opened it. As she flipped through the contents, her expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to heartbreak. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," I whispered, reaching out to hold her hand. She pulled away, standing up abruptly. "I need to go," she said, her voice shaking. "Please, let's talk about this," I pleaded. But she was already heading towards the door. I can't," she murmured before leaving. I sat there, feeling a mix of guilt, sadness, and anger. I knew I'd done the right thing by telling her, but it didn't make the situation any less painful. It's been a few days since that morning. Sarah hasn't returned my calls or texts. I'm giving her space, but it's hard not knowing how she's holding up. I hope she knows I'm here for her whenever she's ready. Trust your instincts and always look out for those you love. It's been a little over a week since Sarah stormed out of my apartment. She hadn't replied to any of my texts or calls. I understood she needed space, but I was getting worried. She was the kind of person who bottled things up until she exploded. And this? This was a volcano. Then, out of nowhere, she showed up at my door. No warning, no message, just a knock. When I opened the door, I barely recognized her. Her hair was a mess, eyes red, no makeup, which was rare for her. She looked defeated. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I nodded and stepped aside. She walked in, went straight to the kitchen, sat down at the table like she'd done 1,000 times before, and just sat there in silence. I waited. I didn't want to push her. "I confronted him," she finally said. Her voice was hollow. I sat across from her. "What did he say?" "He denied it. Said they're just close friends. Told me I was being crazy. That maybe you were jealous of our marriage and trying to cause drama." I blinked. "He said what?" She nodded slowly. "Yeah. He tried to turn it on me. Said you were always too involved in our lives. That you probably photoshopped the pictures. That you're obsessed." I felt my blood boil. "He's gaslighting you." "I know," she whispered. But he said it with such conviction that for a second, I actually questioned myself. "Sarah, I would never do that to you." "I know," she said again, this time with more strength in her voice. "I believed you. I believe you now." But in that moment, I just froze. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small digital recorder. I recorded the conversation. I blinked. "You did?" She nodded. I had a gut feeling he'd try to manipulate me. I needed to hear the truth with my own ears later, when I wasn't caught up in the emotion. She pressed play. I heard Mike's voice, cool, calm, calculating. "You really think I'd cheat on you with Jessica? That's what this is? This is what my friend's name has been feeding you, right? She's been obsessed with me for years. You don't see it, but I do. She's always hanging around, watching us. She's not your friend, Sarah. She's jealous. Of you. Of what we have." The lies hit me like a punch to the gut. Sarah hit stop. "I needed you to hear it too," she said. "To know I don't believe him." But that's not the worst part. She looked me dead in the eyes. "Jessica's pregnant." My stomach dropped. "How do you know?" I asked. "She called me." I blinked. "She called you?" Sarah nodded. "She said she didn't want to lie anymore. Said Mike promised he'd leave me, that they'd be together soon. But he's been ghosting her since the confrontation." It was suddenly too much. I leaned back in my chair, trying to make sense of it all. Why would she tell you all this? Because she's scared. Alone. And now she realizes she was just a pawn too. Mike was stringing her along the same way he's been lying to me. She didn't know I existed for the first 6 months they were involved. I rubbed my face with both hands. This is a damn mess. Sarah was quiet for a moment. I invited her over. "You what?" "She's coming by tonight. I need to see her face. I need to look her in the eyes and hear it again." I had no idea what to say. All I knew was this was far from over. And that night? It turned out to be even more explosive than either of us expected. Later that evening, just as the streetlights flickered on outside, the doorbell rang. Jessica stood there. Slim, tired, with makeup that looked like it had been reapplied one too many times. Her eyes scanned both of us quickly, then she stepped inside without a word. She sat at the table across from Sarah, didn't even look at me. For a full minute, no one said anything. Just 3 women sitting at a table, all tangled in the same web. Finally, Jessica cleared her throat. "I didn't come to defend him." Sarah folded her arms. "Then why did you call me?" Jessica looked down at her hands. "Because I think you need to know something. And I can't keep it to myself anymore." She pulled out her phone, scrolled, then placed it on the table. A photo of Mike in bed, clearly not taken at home. Same Godfrey hotel sheets I recognized from the photos I'd taken. But that wasn't the shocking part. In the background, barely noticeable at first, was a baby crib. Sarah's face drained of color. "I'm not the only one," Jessica said, her voice barely a whisper. "What?" I asked. Jessica nodded. "He's been seeing another woman. Her name's Clara. She works in accounting. She just had his baby 2 months ago. I found out because he used my Netflix login at her place." Her name popped up on the profile. I stared in disbelief. "So, he's cheating on you with someone else, too?" She nodded. I confronted him. He told me it was none of my business and blocked me. Sarah was stone-faced, breathing slow and deep. Then Jessica dropped another bomb. "There's more. He's been sending Clara money. Lots of it. Like thousands." I checked his Venmo. I saw the transactions. "For the baby," he said in the notes. Sarah slowly stood up. Her voice was sharp now. "How long were you with him, Jessica?" "Almost a year. He told me he was in the middle of a divorce. Said you were toxic. Said you cheated on him and that he was just staying for the kids. Which turns out you don't even have." "No," Sarah said through clenched teeth. "We don't." I watched my best friend in complete silence, wondering what must be going through her mind. Her whole marriage, her life, had turned into a lie built on lies. Jessica pulled something else from her purse. A small manila envelope. "These are screenshots. Messages. Conversations with him. Just in case you want them." Sarah took the envelope but didn't open it. "Why now, Jessica? Why help me now?" "Because I was stupid, but I'm not evil," she said. "And I'm scared. If he's been lying to you and me and Clara, who knows how far this goes." We sat in silence for a moment. The air was heavy. Then Sarah said something that chilled me. "I think he married me for my money." Jessica looked up, confused. "Money?" Sarah nodded slowly. "My parents left me their real estate business. I own 2 condos and a lake house in Wisconsin. All in my name. He's always pushed to have access, but I refused. Told him if something ever happened, I needed a safety net." I felt a knot tighten in my chest. "You think he was planning something?" "I don't know," Sarah said. "But now I'm wondering how deep this really goes." Jessica stood, grabbing her coat. "If you want to talk to Clara, I can reach out. I think she deserves to know, too." Sarah nodded. "Do it." After Jessica left, Sarah sat in silence for a long time, staring at nothing. She finally looked at me and said, "He didn't just cheat. He built a life around his lies." And I had no doubt we were only scratching the surface. The next week was chaos. Jessica managed to get in touch with Clara. They met up, compared notes, and it didn't take long before they both saw the full picture. Clara, who thought she was in a committed relationship with Mike, had no idea he was married, let alone involved with someone else. When Sarah heard this, she didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just went quiet, too quiet. That silence was the calm before the storm. Sarah decided to confront Mike. Not in private. No, she wanted everything in the open. She invited him to what he thought was a quiet dinner at a family-style Italian restaurant in River North, the kind they used to frequent early in their marriage. I was there. Jessica and Clara, too. Mike walked in, casual, confident, like he was walking into a surprise birthday party. He smiled when he saw Sarah. Then he saw the rest of us. His smile faltered. "What's this?" he asked, glancing around, visibly nervous now. Sarah gestured for him to sit. "Have a seat, Mike." He didn't move. "What is this?" Clara stood up. "It's called The Truth." Jessica threw a thick stack of printed screenshots onto the table. "You've been caught, Mike. All of it. The lies, the cheating, the manipulation, the money." He turned to Sarah. "This isn't what it looks like." She raised her voice, firm but calm. "Then explain it. Tell all of us what it looks like." Mike shifted uncomfortably, glancing around the restaurant. People were beginning to look. He tried to laugh it off, but it came out forced. "You've all got this wrong." Sarah stood now. "So Clara was just what? A charity case? Jessica's just a friend?" I'm the crazy one. Mike snapped. You don't understand what it's like. None of you know how hard I've worked, how much I've sacrificed. Clara's voice cut through the noise. You lied to me while I was carrying your child. Told me you were a single man ready to build a life. You bought a crib. Said we'd be a family. Jessica's hands were shaking. You said you loved me. That she was the problem. That you were planning to leave. Then Sarah dropped the final bomb. She reached into her purse, pulled out a copy of her will, and tossed it on the table. You remember asking me to sign over partial ownership of my properties? Said it was for tax purposes? You were trying to secure yourself a golden parachute in case you got caught. His face turned pale. You married me for money, Sarah said, eyes fixed on him. And when that wasn't enough, you built a harem behind my back. There was a moment of complete silence. Even the restaurant had gone quiet. Mike looked around, realized there was no way out. You don't know what it's like to feel invisible, he muttered. You were always in control. Always had everything. I was just trying to have something that was mine. And now you've got nothing, Sarah said coldly. Mike stood, furious. You think you're better than me? All of you. No one responded. He looked at me, the only one who hadn't spoken. And you? You think you're some kind of hero for exposing me? I met his gaze. I think you exposed yourself. He stormed out. Sarah sat down slowly, hands in her lap. She looked tired, but calm. Jessica quietly left. Clara followed, whispering, "Call me if you need anything," to Sarah. It was just the two of us again. I feel like I just cut out a cancer, she said softly. You kind of did. She laughed once, bitter and short. I don't know what to do next. You don't have to know yet. You just have to breathe. The next few weeks were messy. There were legal talks. Sarah filed for divorce. Clara started the process for child support. Jessica disappeared for a bit, said she needed space. I didn't blame her. Sarah cried a lot, screamed once or twice. But mostly, she started picking up pieces of herself. She sold the lake house, said it felt tainted. Started therapy. Went back to painting, something she hadn't done since college. One night, over wine, she asked me, "Do you think I was stupid?" "No," I said. "I think you were in love." "That's not stupid." What he did was. She nodded, not fully convinced, but grateful. As for me, I learned a lot. About loyalty. About how deep betrayal can go. And about how sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. It just shows you where the fire is so you can stop pretending it's warm. We don't talk about Mike anymore. He became background noise. A cautionary tale. A dark chapter that finally ended. Sarah's not ready to trust again. And I don't blame her. But she's healing. Bit by bit. And me? I'm still here. A little more tired, maybe. But also more certain of who I am and what I'll never allow in my life.